And it is.
What happens when you stop eating sugar? The average person consumes over 150 pounds of sugar per year. And we're going to talk about how that impacts your health right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio and TV network, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Paton, and joining us as usual is Life Enthusiast health coach, Martin Pytela. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
It's a good day, Scott. It's a really good day. As of 2 days ago, I feel hopeful.
Yes, me too.
I was so feeling like if this doesn't go the right way, we are going to be heading straight for the communist world that I escaped from or became a refugee from back in 1976. I mean, I put everything on the line. I gave up my parents. I gave up my siblings, my classmates, all, like you at 25, you have a pretty decent network of people that you're going to go through life, right? Like my classmate became a minister of the industry, another classmate became the CEO of Unipetrol and whatever, right? Like I was going to be a somebody if I stayed there, but I couldn't swallow the communist pill. It just couldn't be done. So I gave it up and left, right? Anyway, so I was already feeling it chasing me up here. And I'm very hopeful that this might just turn the ship around.
Right. Well, and especially among the areas that you and I talk about a lot, which is, sticking chemical concoctions into our arms and eating ultra processed foods and I'm very hopeful that Robert Kennedy Jr. will change things, and hopefully that's what happens. So today we're going to be talking about sugar, and I guess let's start off with why is sugar such a bad thing?
It's not really, it's a wonderful thing. In small quantities, it really is nice. So genetically, some of us are more capable of handling carbohydrates than others. The blood type O's, especially, they have the hunter genetics, and they are less able to handle starch. So they should be on a low starch, low glucose diet. So here's the science of it. Starch, as in potato, white rice, well, actually all rice, wheat, all the grains really, they all are storing energy in starch. And the starch is breaking apart into, it's composed of strings, three, actually. I don't know, how do you do three? Three strings of glucose. So when this glucose is taken apart, it hits your bloodstream. Now, sucrose, which is what we call sugar, that would be made either from sugar beet or from sugar cane, that stuff is actually made up of two molecules. One is glucose and the other is fructose. And fructose is the sugar that's richly present in fruit. So all of us people who are on the hunter side of genetics have to be expecting to do badly when eating high amounts of glucose, whether it comes in the form of starch or sugar. So when Scott's put forward 150 pounds of sugar, that's not the end of it. You have high fructose corn syrup, glycemic index of 87. You have rice, glycemic index 100. You have steamed potato, glycemic index 110. Sucrose is only 70. So consider that, right? I'm not trying to tell you that sugar is health food. It's just that sugar in reasonable quantity isn't really that bad.
The problem is that we don't do anything in reasonable quantities. We do everything. It's like that Tina Turner song, we don't do anything nice and easy. We do it nice and hard. And of course, we have created this society where every month, every 6 weeks, we have a feast. And it's the Feast of St. Valentine's, the Feast of Easter, the Feast of getting out of school, graduation, the Feast of the baseball season, the Feast of the football season, the Feast of Thanksgiving, the Feast of going back to school, the Feast of Christmas, and on. And so what happens is you can be doing really, really well, and then all of a sudden there's a massive pumpkin pie with whipped cream, or there's a massive Christmas cake or birthday cakes. I forgot about birthdays. So we have this, and nobody ever gives never eats a dessert that isn't full of sugar. So we have these, even if you're doing really, really well, then we have these big spikes, and that can't be well. I mean, it's kind of like I suspect it's kind of like if you never walked for a month and then you ran 10 miles, and then you never walked for a month and you ran 10 miles. It's hard on your body.
Yeah. In fact, if you do that, you probably have to stay in bed for 3 days.
Right. And you had brought up the
starch,
high fructose corn syrup. And I think, so there's something that, okay, so here's the question. 7,000 years ago, Martin, how many people were eating high fructose corn syrup?
Yeah. That's self-evident, right? Self-evident. How many people were eating refined sugar, Scott? How many people were eating a pound of rice for their dinner?
Well, the Chinese probably were.
Not 7,000 years ago.
Well, what were they eating then?
Agriculture didn't hit planet until about 6,000 years ago. If you go looking at the Fertile Crescent, which is Mesopotamia, that sort of thing, that's the biblical beginning.
6,000, yeah.
That's when
I should have said 4,000 years ago. Well, I meant when there was agriculture, right?
Okay, I'm just using it as a toy. So anyway, intense agriculture wasn't introduced until quite recently, and the blood type Bs and blood type As are the offshoot off of that. All of the people with blood type O are genetically from before then.
Right.
No adaptation.
So we're not saying no sugar, but we're saying a lot less sugar than what you're eating now.
Right. So for example, 9 teaspoons of sugar in a 12-ounce bottle or can of a soda pop. That's a recipe for an absolute spike. And if you spike it with rum or rye or something like that,
you're adding more.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's one of the problems with sugar, right? Is it's in just about everything. Like,
yeah, yes, it is. Somehow, when I came from Europe to America, I was in Canada actually, I could not stand the taste of foods in the bakery. The Danish. For example, I would buy a chocolate bar like Coffee Crisp or O. Henry or something like that, and it was so sweet, I would take one bite and throw the thing away. Like I could not stand it. It's so awful. To my European taste, or to my accustomed to the European diet, it was just unbelievable. Like, for example, ketchup, Heinz ketchup in Europe tastes savory and slightly sour.
It still does.
Yeah, well, yeah, it still does. Here, it tastes like candy.
Yeah. And here, we've got this big a list of ingredients. And I'm in Maputo, Mozambique, and I just had something with ketchup. And I look at the label, and it's got like 5 ingredients, right? Tomato paste. It has sugar, but it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup, and vinegar, and a couple spices. And there you go. Right?
That's it.
That's it. So we
Okay,
need
so
to get
speaking of
back
sugar,
to
right?
basics.
But what happens? You asked the opening question. What happens when you don't eat as much sugar? So your blood glucose dysregulation goes away. Here's what happens when glucose hits your bloodstream. One, it gets noticed. Two, insulin gets sent to chase it away. Insulin is not necessarily a glucose management system. It is, in fact, an energy storage hormone. Insulin's job is to take all excess unneeded glucose and shove it into your belly fat. That's his job. So it converts the glucose into triglyceride, and there are multiple steps in there, but through the triglyceride. So you can see high triglyceride in a blood test. You know that you have excess glucose, that you're overeating it. And then that goes and gets deposited on your belly. Or depends on which body type you are. If you're the adrenal, it gets deposited all over, everywhere. You'll have fat arms, fat chest, fat belly. If you're the thyroid type, you will have the beer gut, just forward, like you swallowed a watermelon.
I saw a guy yesterday. He looked like he had 2 watermelons around the front of his waist.
Yeah,
It was just amazing. Like I'd just never seen. Like it just went
it went far out.
far out. Like like a foot.
Wow. What race was he?
Huge. White.
Okay. All right. Well, so there are 2 things that happen with this, right? One is the layer of fat, visceral fat. The other thing is that if you have an inflammatory reaction, for example, if you're eating foods like industrial wheat, it will actually cause micro injuries, and your body, in its attempt to repair it, is chasing it with fluids. Here are the symptoms of inflammation: redness, heat, swelling, pain, and loss of function. So this big belly is, in fact, both his small intestine and large intestine are inflamed, and they're filling with water. That's the story there. Well, anyway, so when you get your glucose level down, the first thing that happens is that you will lose the swings in energy. 2, your body starts burning the stored fat, which will start putting ketones to your brain, so you will actually start feeling smarter, because bread makes people feel stupid. You know, the brain fog, that's a glucose overdose, not enough ketones. So when you're fasting, eating nothing, you are actually reaching into the fat reserves and burning them. Okay, so you'll be actually smarter. 3, your joints will start feeling better because you're going to be packing less weight around. 4, your stored cholesterol within your arteries will start being taken away because it's no longer needed. Gosh, you're going to feel so healthy.
Yes. And you'll actually have more energy because you get these spikes, right? Where you have something that's sweet. Oh, I feel energetic. And then next thing you know, you're having a nap on the couch.
Because you have a spike of glucose, then the insulin takes it away, but they always overshoot. And so they take you too far down. So now you're hypoglycemic, practically losing consciousness because you have no energy. You can't think your way out of a 3-pound paper bag.
Martin, before we go any further, after this show, we're going to be moving over to Telegram because we can say whatever we want within reason and not be banned. And that's t.me/life-and-co. And come over there and you can ask us any questions you want. We'll talk a little bit more about sugar, but we'll also answer any questions that people have. And we've been having some really good conversations over there. So, Martin, why is it so difficult for people to reduce the amount of sugar?
Addiction.
So it is more addictive than heroin and Coke and all the rest of it.
Actually, it's true. Yeah. The addiction to bread or to wheat. There's something special with wheat. There are some, I forget the names of it. I think it rhymes with anandamide or something like that. But there are some substances in bread that actually create a level of bliss that you want to experience again and again. Like I honestly tell you, like when I decided to give up bread, I had to practically put handcuffs on when I went through bakery department because I wanted to buy a French baguette and a pound of butter and have myself a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've really cut down on my bread, and every once in a while,
You let go?
There's a loaf, and it's just like irresistible. And then when I have every slice, it's like, oh, this feels so good.
It does. It is an absolute bliss moment. It really is. Well, it's harder to give up than cocaine for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've never tried cocaine, so what the hell do I know? But I did manage to give up bread. Well, not quite. I have gotten some gluten-free bread that now and then I have a piece of. But
So Martin, I had a conversation with a friend of mine today, and it was on sugar. And to back up for a second, I have another friend, and not his whole thing, but he likes to poke people on Facebook. And one of the ways that he does it is he holds up an entire Kit Kat thing, and he takes a bite out of all four of them at once. So you have this, triangular thing with this half moon sort of.
yeah,
And he's like, this is how you eat Kit Kat. And of course, no, you eat it one at a time. So I haven't had a Kit Kat in 40 years. Okay. Well,
yeah.
30 years for sure. But I saw Kit Kat in the grocery store, and I said, I'm going to have some fun with my friend. So I got this Kit Kat thing, and then I did a video, and I said, this is how you eat Kit Kat. And I did this whole demonstration of you take off one and you take a bite and this whole thing. And then I had some pictures of it, posted that all. And she was quite upset because, that's really, really
That's
bad.
not how you eat Kit Kat, damn it.
No, she was upset I was having this ugly sugar thing, right? It's like, she's like, no sugar, like zero sugar.
Okay.
And this is like, let's say, for example, as an example, let's presume that zero sugar is absolutely ideal. But if you're eating 150 pounds of sugar a year, is it realistic to expect somebody to go from 150 pounds of sugar to zero sugar in a week, a month, a year, 2 years? Like, you take it down, like in my opinion, you take it down slowly, because unless you're pre-diabetic or there's, an emergency of some sort, but if you're like an average person, reduce it. And you just like because otherwise you're going to have, like we've talked about, irritability and all these things that come when you're going through, like, do you need to put your family through all that sort of stuff, or your friends and your coworkers?
Yeah, Scott, you're just opening so many doors here, so many rooms, which is the following. Endocrine dominance, if you're wondering what that's about, come to Life Enthusiast, go to the podcast and watch the podcast number 286. Okay, it's the weight loss secrets. If you're thyroid dominant, you will gain weight with carbs and lose weight with fat. If you are adrenal dominant, you will gain weight with fats and lose weight with other stuff, salad. Okay, so need to understand that. So that's one. Two, I am actually of two minds of this. You're advocating for gradual decrease. I think it might be less painful to just go cold turkey, just suffer for 3 weeks and have it over with.
Yeah.
Actually,
the problem with going cold turkey is you do this 3-week thing and you're like, I'm over it. And then your mom invites you over for Thanksgiving dinner and puts this massive pumpkin pie that she made herself with whipped cream that your grandkids whipped up themselves. And then are you going to say no?
Yep, you're going to have to find a way to say no. Otherwise, you're right back to beginning, and you have 3 weeks of hell again.
Followed by Christmas.
Ron
Candy
Rosedale, Dr. Ron Rosedale, wrote a book about leptins. Not lectin, leptin, Leptin, which is a signaling molecule that is supposed to arrive in your brain and tell you, I've had enough. And when you are dysregulated, you will overeat. And the easiest thing to overeat is stuff that hides itself. Scott mentioned it. Did we have it 4,000 years ago? There's no genetic equipment for you to have a detector for HFCS. There's no limit. There's no control. There's no relay that's going to trip and say, oh, too much of that. So
Martin, let me ask you this. If you sat down to a meal and all there was lettuce, and a couple other salad-y things, I just want to keep this simple, and a steak, and there was like 5 steaks. When you're done probably 3/4 of the first steak in your salad, you're going, I'm good now. I don't need to eat anymore. Right?
You could not finish it. For me,
Right.
The limit is about 8 ounces of protein. When I was a young man working physically, I could put away a 14-ounce steak. I cannot do that now.
Right. Now, here's the second meal that you're going to have. And it's full of bread and tarts and highly processed foods.
Yeah, let me start with a bowl of cereal with milk, and I'll do a trailer with cake and so on, right? Yep.
And muffins. There's no
There's
stopping, right?
Scott, there was a study done. They had 2 groups of people. No, actually, same group of people for 2 weeks on one style and 2 weeks on another style. And on the style that was what you just described as in all you want but healthy, compared to the all you want but processed, they ate 500 calories a day more. They just simply ate to satisfaction. That's it. But listen, 3,500 calories in a week. That's a pound of fat. No wonder America is 75% overweight, 50% grossly.
So, Martin, when I was on the plains of Kenya in Masai Mara, they were game reserve, we were fortunate enough to see a lion eating a wild beast, I think. It was hard to tell because he was, on top of it, eating it. And he did not eat the entire thing. Like, he ate until he was satisfied, which I don't think was even half of it. And then he left it. And then all the vultures, like there was 30 vultures on the side.
Yeah, hyenas.
They all went in nuts. And then all of a sudden they stopped. And then, there's still lots of meat on this thing. Now I understand why we have hyenas and stuff. But it was like, there's a certain amount I need to live at an optimal level to survive in the jungle or the savannah. And that's what I'm going to eat when it's like non-processed. But when they process the food, I think they do 2 things. One is, how can we set off those little things in our tongue that go, ooh, that's really good. I like it. So I want more. What can we put in that's sort of an addictive sort of thing like sugar? And then what can we do to turn off the native, you have eaten enough, right? I mean, it's cliche. Thanksgiving, if you're a teenager, you eat, and the next thing you know, you're on the couch going, oh, I can't believe I ate all that. Why didn't you stop before? Because of the types of foods that we're eating encourage overeating.
Yep.
And we need to really look.
It would be no problem if we were all working in the fields. If I was doing physical labor and was putting out 5,000-6,000 calories a day, which I did when I was 25, I know what that feels like. Back then I could do 8 hours of solid heavy lifting. But I tell you, I ate a breakfast this big and lunch this big and dinner this big and 2 snacks in between. It took a lot of effort to feed the calories. For that, pizza's awesome. Or turkey with 27 side dishes, sure. Oh, well.
Martin, what are some of the, so what would be a strategy?
I need to leave in 1 minute.
We're actually out of time. We're going to be heading over to t.me/Life and Co. in a minute.
Come see us
come
there.
Over.
We're fun. We
fun.
Answer questions.
Yeah, it's really
Telegram, I tell you, is worth subscribing to. you may not know it, but it actually has a lot of fun channels, not just ours, many. And it's really a cool place.
Yeah, we got to get it. We got to get it going. In fact, it's such a dangerous, cool place that they arrested the president.
Yeah, Pavel
invited him
Durov.
to France, and then they arrested him.
Yeah, Pavel Durov, the founder of it. That the company's privately owned. Pavel is the only shareholder, so nobody can toss him around except physically restraining him.
Okay, Martin, 30 seconds. How can you give us a tip for getting off of sugar?
Eat nutrient-rich foods. Come visit Life Enthusiast. Come to Superfoods in the supplements. Get a bottle of that Zoetine, Powertine, Iridesa, any one of them. Just take a look at it. Try one. As soon as you start feeding your body high nutrient density food, you start feeling better.
Awesome. And thank you, Animals Rules. And we'll see you over at...
I knew one gal that had that leg handle, Karen. I wonder if that's Karen.
Is that
All
Karen?
right.
Are you Karen?
All right. Very good.
See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.